Yeah, I think there's a panel up. Sweet. Hey folks, I'm VC, also Vaibhav. I work at Socket, which is an interrupt protocol. And who here hates bridging? That likely includes me, yeah? So we gotta fix that problem. And we've been working on it for quite some time. We haven't found the perfect solution yet. Maybe this is it, you know? But in that journey, we've come across some very interesting problems, which I think don't kind of relate to intents directly, but in a more kind of tangential way. So I'm not here kind of like talking about Socket, but more about these interesting problems. One of them is like Atomicity for cross-chain intents, right? Cross-chain is by default async. You don't have one chain, there is no one transaction. It's by default something that's executed across multiple chains. So whenever you are doing things on one chain, a transaction gives you this notion of atomicity. Unfortunately, in this cross-chain world, we don't have it. So what are intents? I think let's skip that completely. It really doesn't matter. Everything is intent. Broadly, what's an intent lifecycle, right? User wants to do an action. User, kind of signs some preferences along with that action. So let's say a user wants to do a swap. He says, I want to do it quickly. Someone says, I want the best price, so on and so forth, right? Whatever the preference might be. And then there's like a bunch of network, some off-chain actors, some solvers who try to optimize that action for the end user. And they do it in the most dynamic sense as possible, which is like just around TX execution, you try to find the best path, right? Broadly, that's what's going on. Once that happens, the network fulfills the intent, and there's often a smart contract on the chain that kind of like settles the interaction between the user that's signing the intent and the network or the solver that's fulfilling it. Usually it's a smart contract, and all of this happens atomically in a single TX, right? So this kind of like is involved because that's the problem like cross-chain has. But before I kind of get into it, like what does atomic even mean, right? What atomic really means is intents have two states, a failure state and a success state. Taking a quick example for like swap intents, the success case is the user receives the minimum output that he asked for the output token, right? So if someone's doing an ETH USDC swap, the user probably defined like, I want a minimum of this much amount of USDC. Success case is the user receives like at least the minimum. The failure case for let's say a swap intent is the user is still holding the original amount of the input token. So the swap did not happen. So either the swap happens or the swap does not happen. There is no middle case, right? This is what I mean atomically. Now, on a single chain context, all of this happens atomically and synchronously. What that means is like all of this happens in a single TX. So it's atomic and synchronous, right? There's a very nice kind of meme there that kind of like shows that how this settlement is kind of like fulfilling the intent and kind of like bridging the gap between the intent and the solver. Now, like quickly kind of like talking about the real problem here. How do we handle like async intents? Hey, yeah, this is why I love Istanbul. Yeah, I think like there are a good amount of use cases where we need like some sort of like async intent, right? Intents, I don't think is the right kind of like way to kind of frame these kind of use cases. But again, I'm not going to define intents. A good amount of examples are like bridging, right? There is always going to be some latency between a source TX and a destination TX whenever there is bridging involved. Now we will try to kind of make it as small as possible, but it's an async operation. Things are happening on multiple chains at the same time. Some other like quick examples of like, let's say async intents are DCA, like someone wants to buy 100K worth of USDC and they want to do it daily, right? So like some small batches being executed daily. So by definition, this intent is being executed over time, right? There are TOMs, which is, if someone wants to sell, let's say 1,000 ETH, Vitalik is finally dumping his bags, he'll kind of put up a TOM order and it'll get executed over time in like small chunks, right? So these are some like, let's say, good examples of like async intents, right? Now, for today, since I'm from socket, I'll be talking about a specific async intent, which is like bridging, right? So what's a typical bridging flow today, right? A user deposits funds into a bridge contract and waits and prays for funds to be received on the destination, right? And this is completely fine now. Absolutely fine. This is how we are going to get the next billion users on chain, right? The user has no delivery guarantee, right? The bridge will say it'll take 5 minutes, but we all know that's certainly not true, right? It's mostly an estimate. If it all goes well, you might get it in the next 5 minutes, right? And the entire process is async, and there is zero atomicity. The user has given funds, and he has no guarantee if he'll get them or not, and they're just kind of like sitting there in limbo, right? So this is the current scenario, right? So what we really need to do is kind of make things atomic. What I mean by that is like user needs like stronger guarantees that if I start this bridging process, I'll be done in the next 5 minutes or I'll get my funds back. Things are async. Intents have success and failure. But I think we probably need to introduce another state here, which is an in progress state for the intent, where funds are kind of like deposited into a neutral escrow, where they kind of sit for the next 5 minutes, right? Now, this is the in progress state. The bridging guys can, look at this and start fronting the user liquidity on the destination, right? Now, if this is not done in the next 5 minutes, the user will get funds back from the escrow. If it's done in the next 5 minutes, the solver will get them on the source chain, right? So kind of like moving this notion of atomicity from the transaction level, from the blockchain level to the app level, still allows us to have atomicity, but in an asynchronous way, right? So I think what's really going to happen from here on is using protocols like Socket, people will be able to kind of build atomic applications still, but these atomic applications will be, these atomic flows will be executed asynchronously, instead of all of them happening in a single TX on the source chain, right? And users will still have like strong guarantees that things will get done in the next 5 minutes, but it's not going to be like success or fail. There will be a middle state, which is the in progress state. This is atomic-ish. I think this is pretty much it, guys. Kind of like trying to keep it short here. I think to kind of like settle these async intents, we kind of like move atomicity guarantees to the app level. And now these applications across chain are connected via something like Socket that allows these applications to talk to each other. This way users get like some sort of like guarantees around execution of their intent. There is a success state, failure case, and in progress state, and the user will kind of be in the in progress state for a finite amount of time, right? So this is like a primitive that can be expanded to multiple blockchain applications, be it lending, borrowing, be it blockchain trading, be it bridging, whatever. And I think we are kind of like working on something like this. I'm happy to share alpha post-talk, but if you have questions, there's a QR code, feel free to DM me. I think that's pretty much it. Thank you so much, folks. Yeah.
Can you elaborate a bit on the escrow contract?
Yeah, what exactly?
Like how does it look like?
It's just a simple contract. You put in USDC, it starts a ticker. It basically, let's say, starts a ticker towards the time lock, right? So let's say the time lock is of 30 minutes, USDC comes in, 30 minutes start. Now the bridge has to either complete it in 30 minutes, or the escrow contract will allow the user to take the funds back. This escrow contract is connected via something like Socket, which kind of like relays cross-chain information across chains to let the escrow know if the transfer was done or not. Go.
So if the bridge is still happening over multiple blocks, and with the timer and stuff, how do you still do the intent atomically across that?
The intent is still atomic-ish in the sense,
Okay.
Because at the end of 30 minutes or like whatever the time block is, the bridging will either be done or not done. So this is that's why I say it's like atomic-ish.
So the intent could like kick off the bridge, but
Exactly.
it won't necessarily complete the process.
Exactly,
Alright, okay.
exactly. It's an async process. That's exactly why this problem is very interesting.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, so for user to take money out of an escrow, they have to make gas.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Or you could have some keeper bots. Anyone can kind of do it for you.
Right.
But there is another action. That's right.
Yeah, so I'm trying to say, I mean, in that case, the user then can be like
You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a griefing attack there.
yeah, I'm just
No, that you are absolutely right. So whenever, let's say, some sort of like entity pulls funds from the user's EOA to the escrow,
Yeah.
to kind of prevent this griefing attack, you kind of like force the solver to put up, let's say, $20, right? Some sort of like finite amount of money, so that this griefing attack gets kind of like solved for. But yeah, that's a good catch.
yeah.
You've kind of shifted the game here in a way that solvers are now going to take a lot more risk. Because the solvers are going to have to settle on the second chain before they can even have the first chain. And the solvers will need to trust whether it's your network. I don't know if it's going to be a centralized party at the beginning or like a validator set. What are you thinking next?
Yeah, I think that's actually pretty right? Because like right now the paradigm is the user is trusting the bridge. So I mean, let's flip that equation, right? Let's have the solver do. Let's have the solver deal with the uncertainty. Let's have these like solvers, which are the intelligent beings, kind of like determine like how much risk they want to take, and like what are the time logs that they're going to work with, so on and so forth, right? The way Socket is built, the message verification is agnostic. So solvers can decide what's the kind of risk they're willing to take. So they can come ahead and say, I will only work with an intent if it's willing to settle over, let's say, an optimistic verification model, or a ZK verification model, or even the native rollup bridge, right? So solvers can decide what's the kind of like verification tech they want to open themselves up to. But I think this is like one of the really good side effects where uncertainty moves from the user to the solver, right? And solvers can get paid for it, and users will gladly pay in order to get like stronger delivery guarantees. So go for it.
I'm curious, does this Atomicity cover also like a swap on the destination chain, like a swap bridge swap as well?
Absolutely. So if someone wants to go from like shitcoin A to let's say someone wants to bridge a shitcoin A to a destination chain. So what will happen is the solver on the destination will let's say come with USDC and dynamically just like let's say how cars swap 1inch and all of these protocols work, dynamically swap on the destination from their USDC the shitcoin that the user wants. And when that happens, we'll send a message from destination to source that says the shitcoin has been delivered, right? So release the shitcoin, the escrow will release the shitcoin to the solver on the source chain, and they can swap it and kind of redeem themselves.
And the solver takes a 5-minute exposure to the shitcoin.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, so solvers are going to be hedge funds.
I think the idea is like kind of like move complexity to these solvers and kind of like make lives for the end user easier. If that's all the questions, thank you so much. I'll be there in the lobby. We can jump. Thank you.